Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Courtney.
And Courtney, how are you?
Hot. I am so hot. It it has been the worst week of the year so far,
By far.
by far. Like we had a couple of heat advisories. I'm saying this, I was like last year we had like so many. It was like every other weekend, I felt like. And this year it hasn't been as many. And they only lasted for like 2-3 days max. This has been all week long, but it has been like over 90. And so my apartment has just turned into like an oven. And it hasn't been like I couldn't air it out because the outside is also bad. Like there's no like, so I was telling MK earlier, I was like, I just slept all day today, which is why we're recording at like the middle of the night. I mean, it's like 8 o'clock. It's not like the middle of the night, but it feels like it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, she was like, do you want to record? And I was like, let's record when it's dark. It's like when I'm not battling both my like apartment light and the sun.
Yeah.
So, but other than the heat wave and that is burning down the entire earth, I have some very exciting news for friends
Ooh.
in the Long Island area or New York area, but like specifically Long Island area. If you're
Okay.
listening, we just booked Caitlin's first festival appearance. And I'm
Yay!
so stoked because I reached out to them 6 months ago and heard back yesterday, and it's in 2 weeks, which made me want to kill myself a little bit, but it's fine. We figured it out.
Good,
Um,
good.
but she's playing at the Gallery North Arts Fest from 3 to 5 on September 24th. So if y'all are around, it looks super chill. I've never been, obviously, but it's going to have live music, arts and crafts, and ounce to talk it. So it should be a swell time, and I'm super stoked. It made me feel like I actually am not a terrible manager, so that's
Yeah.
exciting. So I'm having mixed feelings about life right now. I'm like birding alive, but also thrilled about this show that's happening in a couple of weeks. So how are you?
I am tired. It is the first week of school. Um, and also my school does not have air conditioning.
Yeah, I still don't get that. You can tell me however many times you want. I'll
Um,
never understand it.
And this week, well, here's the thing, we have heat. We're in school for mostly winter months. It's like the last 2 weeks of school and the first 2 weeks of school are the only times when it really matters that we don't have air. And that's the school opened in 1944. Like it
Right.
wasn't built in a way that was good for that could have air conditioning. Um, but on Tuesday, I went into my classroom at 6:15 because I wanted to do work in my classroom before the sun came out. And by 8 o'clock in the morning, I needed a shower already. Like that's where we're at. The first day of school was so hot I wanted to die. But I explained to my sixth graders the difference between heat and humidity. And then the next day, it had cooled down like maybe 5 degrees because it was raining. But you know, when it's hot and it's raining and how it's really not that much better.
Yeah.
And one of my sixth graders comes in and just goes, "Oh, Mazotic, what's the humidity today?" I said 94%. And he goes, "No wonder I want to die." It's like, oh, you're
Yeah.
learning, teaching them young.
Yeah.
But it was a weird week. This is a weird school year. Everything's weird. But it was good. It was
Good.
good. I'm just so tired because I'm not used to this life. I slept all summer
Right.
and now I will never sleep again.
Right.
My sister asked me when we could do something this month, and I literally looked at my calendar and was like,
Not this
maybe
month.
the 28th.
Yeah.
It's the 9th for those of you who don't know when we're recording this.
Right, right.
Like, it's gonna be a
Yeah.
while.
It's gonna be a month for you.
Yeah, because this episode will come out on the 17th. So like that doesn't feel as obnoxious, but
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's like a week and a half from now. Like, okay, I'm just like packed for this week. No, it's the month.
yeah. And actually, that day is not even correct that I said. I know it's not the 28th that I'm free. It
No, it is
is,
because that's like a Thursday.
yeah, if it's a Thursday, I'm definitely.
Because the 24th is a Sunday.
Oh, no, it is. It is the 26th, that Tuesday. I might
Hmm.
have the evening free. And no, I don't. That's my bad. Just kidding. It is Thursday. It's Thursday the 28th. It
Oh,
is.
good. You nailed it. You nailed
I
it.
nailed it. That's the next time I have the evening free.
Hmm. Yeah, I was trying to like set up meetings this week, and one of my clients texted me and she's like, "What day are you free?" And I'm like, "Next Thursday at 4." I was like, "That's when I'm free. Are you free?" Then she's like, "Yeah." So I was like, "Great." I was like,
Great.
"Sounds good."
Yeah. No, it's a time. But so other than very busy and very tired, I am doing well. My students, I let them vote on what books to read first this year, just to shake it up and
Oh,
also like see what they were interested in. And my eighth graders unanimously chose to read Charles Dickens' Great Expectations
I love
because,
it.
well, Nikki wanted to read it because Pip was named after that, so he understands that that is an important book to me. The rest of them said, "Oh, all the characters are awful people. We're in."
I mean, what a way to sell it though. Like, to be fair, I'm reading a book right now called Bad Summer People, and all of the characters are awful. And then at some
Yeah.
point, I think someone dies, but I'm like 60% through and like no one's died yet. So I don't know what's going on. But like,
Mm.
that's why I'm reading this book. So, I mean, 20 years later, 24, I don't know how old your class people are.
Um, they're
Seven,
eighth
eight ish.
graders. They're eighth
Oh,
graders, so
like
like
12 ish.
13, like 12,
Yeah.
13. Yeah.
So, like, roughly 20 years later, I still feel the exact same way. Like, give me the book with all the terrible people in it. So,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
yeah.
Um, since sometimes everyone is a terrible person, we need some spiritual guidance in our lives. And how can you help us with that today, Courtney?
Well, I'm here to provide some guidance for you. Um, and it's what we all need to hear today, as in me and you at least. Never be afraid to fall apart because it is an opportunity to rebuild yourself the way you wish you had been all along. Ray Smith,
Uh,
RAE. I don't
don't
know.
worry. I take that advice at least once a month.
Yep, yep.
Cool. Well, weirdly, falling apart and rebuilding actually makes sense with this episode,
It
which
does.
I don't think you did on purpose.
I did not. I did watch the episode first, but I did not connect the dots
Oh, yeah.
until you just said it. So, I
So
mean,
this episode is Stargate SG-1, Season 4, Episode 9. It is called Scorched Earth. It came out on August 25th, 2000. It was rated 7.6 stars. Um, the same number one book from last week was the number one. The number one song was Doesn't Really Matter by Janet Jackson. I don't particularly know that one.
I don't know. That's pretty.
And then the number one movie was another movie that premiered that day because we're talking Fridays in the summer. But this one made me, I actually gasped out loud and then had an existential crisis about my age. Because the number one movie on August 25th, 2000
Oh no.
was Bring It On.
That is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
It is one of the best. I fell in love with Eliza
Eliza Dushku. Yeah,
Dushku. I always say her last name wrong. Ugh, the best. She's truly like one of the best.
yeah. But that was the day it came out.
So that was 23 years ago. That's cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Great. I love that we're old.
See, I told you, Christopher Judge, every week. Every week we ask ourselves, how the
Every
fuck
week.
did we get this old? Um, on this day, I really couldn't find a lot of things that happened other than Bring It On coming out.
That's the
But
only thing important.
Patrick Stewart got married. Um,
Oh.
but then he got divorced in 2003, so like it didn't really matter.
Immediately. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And Carl Barks, who was an animator, passed away that day at 99 years old. He's really important because he created Scrooge McDuck.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so nice.
But and he lived a long, happy life. He died at 99. So
Oh, I love that.
because he was born in 1901.
Sure. I mean, when Scrooge McDuck came out, he had to at least have been more than like one or two to have created him.
Right. But still, could you imagine being alive in 1901?
No.
I can't even imagine that I was alive in 2001
I was
sometimes.
literally about to say that. I was like, I don't even know what that was like. And I was there. So it's fine. It's fine.
This episode does not have a lot of newbies on the team. It was directed by Martin Wood, written by Joseph Malozzi and Paul Mully, and edited by Alan Lee. So everybody's back. Joseph and Paul are new-ish, but not brand new. We talked about them a couple weeks ago. The guest star,
Your what?
um,
Get star?
the guest star, bless you.
Sorry.
There
I'm so
was
sorry.
It's okay. There was quite a few to choose from this time because but I chose Brian Markinson, who played Lotan. He is known for the movie Shooter, the show Continuum, and something called Wolf. Um, but he is one of those guys. He's got 164 credits and has been on one or two episodes of every show anyone has ever watched.
Great.
He
Honestly, I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Like, you get to be involved in all of these fun projects, and you probably make plenty to survive on, I would imagine. But
See, that's
also,
the thing
like,
is, I was gonna say I don't know that you do, especially with where we are
to
with.
survive on,
I mean, to survive,
if
yeah,
you're doing like 40 shows a year, like each one's paying you at least enough to have a good, like, I'm not saying you're rich, you're not a millionaire, you're not what
yeah,
everybody, but you also have to like deal with all the crap everyone else has to deal with being famous. So
yeah.
like,
I just feel like based on the number of TV stations that replay nothing but Law and Order, every person who's ever been in an episode of Law and Order should be a billionaire. Like at this
that's true.
point,
I don't think people were paid well to be a Law and Order, if I had to guess, though. That's not
yeah.
one I would have guessed that you got. Like, I feel
No.
like this role he probably got paid a bit more for than like being on Law and
Oh
Order.
yeah, yeah. No, but I'm
So,
just saying like and singing as residuals and the
residuals,
correct
yeah.
payment of residuals is part of this whole strike and why we don't have new TV. Um like like yesterday was Star Trek Day because CBS was playing Star Trek Strange New Worlds on the channel instead of only on Paramount. Um and Dan was like, "Oh, it's so exciting because they're going to play it on regular TV." Because they have nothing else to play because they have no new content, which is kind of exactly what the strike is about. So it defeats the purpose anyway, but it's fine. It's like,
yeah, I was talking to that. We have a new guy who started working in our UK office who seems lovely. But we've only spoken on Teams, and like I've waved at him on a webinar.
yeah.
But like he was telling me about, we were talking about books, and he was saying that Bosch is one of his favorite series. And he was like, I really liked the TV show too. I was like, oh, I haven't really watched it yet. I was like, maybe I'll add it to like one of my upcoming lists. And he was like, yeah, it's a great fall winter show. I was like, well, that's good because we don't have any new TV over here. Like, I'm sure you guys have better TV over there coming out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
like,
because the British actors unions are not in the middle of a crisis.
Right.
It's fine. It's fine. But he also I found his Instagram and I was looking at it and he directed a production of David Ives' Venus and Furs in Vancouver, British Columbia last year. That looked really fascinating and I really wanted what?
I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's a play.
Okay.
Yeah. It was on Broadway like 10 years ago, I think.
Before my time.
Yes. But it was before your time, but when I was still in college, so I knew everything that was on Broadway, but I was too poor to see anything that was on Broadway.
Yes.
But yeah, he had like nothing recent on his Instagram. His most recent posts were all from this show from last November. So I was like, I only talked about it because it was literally the only thing on his Instagram.
Well, he's living his life.
Yeah. So yeah, we start this episode and a settlement of a village, and they're having a celebration feast and thanking SG-1 for finding a planet for them. Um, they are the Enkarans, which I laughed so hard. Yesterday, Courtney texted me while I was at work and said, I have no recollection of the Enkarans. And I said, that's because you've never met them.
Yeah, I'm like, and I don't trust my memory already because I do forget a lot. And
Yeah.
I was like, this had to have been something I did. No, obviously not.
No, well, because we've never met them. But 2 episodes ago, Watergate, we were talking about what the teams that were off world were doing when we couldn't get the gate to open back up. And what the missing teams were doing was scouting for a planet that had a suitable atmosphere for the Enkarans to live on.
That was my relation. I was supposed to connect back.
That's the only reference we've had.
Not a chance. Not a chance I would have
connected
that.
0% of people, I wouldn't say zero. I'd say less than 10% of people caught that the first time through this show.
Yeah.
Like to the point where it's a trivia. And also I found a Reddit post about people talking about things that they only caught on rewatches. Like, so you're not insane. There was no way you would have remembered that. But they're not introduced in a way where it's necessary for you to have known that. It's the same as like most of the people we met in season 1 where we didn't know anything about them, but we showed up as if we were halfway through a story with them.
Yeah. I just thought they were like, yeah, these are our people. And they're like naming people after Jack. I'm like, we've met them before, I guess, and I don't know who they are. Like,
yeah, they were naming people after Jack, and like halfway through the episode, Jack says something about how we've been living with these people for months, and you're like, what the fuck?
I was like, we absolutely have not. I have been here, and we have not been with them for months. So I don't know where you've been. That I've not been, Jack. But
in the SGC is where he was that you were not, and the Enkarans were also there.
Fair.
But yes, so Hazada, I think has I don't know how to say her name. The leader of I'm just gonna call her Hez because I don't fucking remember how to say her name. So the leader of the Enkarans is her grandchild is gonna be the first Enkaran born on this planet, and so they're gonna name it after Jack, which like hopefully it's a boy.
You can have girls named Jack. My friend Jacqueline that I work with, she goes by Jack.
Yeah.
Jack Vanna. She goes by Jack.
No. I just was thinking about the fact that she says, we'll name it after you, Colonel. And all I was thinking of was the fact that they were going to name the baby Colonel.
Yeah, maybe don't name it Colonel. Yeah, no.
And they're talking about preparing for winter and like what technology they're going to use because the planet's a little bit colder than they want it to be, but apparently it was really hard to find a planet that had the correct atmosphere for these people. When this guy just comes rushing into the village screaming for help. And he's like, it's so big, it's so big. And first Dan said that's what she said. And I wanted to punch him. And then he said, I really thought this was going to be one of those moments where like people are freaking out about how large something is and it's really not. But that is big, yeah. It is big. Because a fucking massive, like 3-building wide spaceship is in the sky, just raining fire down and destroying everything.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great.
And it killed his entire village, and now it's headed for this one. And then we get the credits.
Starting out strong.
Oh yeah. Back at base, they're having a conversation with Hammond about the situation. And this is where we learn the background information of why this planet is so important. So basically, the Enkarans are a species of people who were farmed by the Goa'uld, but they were found by a Goa'uld ship and taken from their home planet centuries, millennia ago, whatever.
Yeah.
and their home planet does not have a Stargate. So they don't have a home world. And they have a very specific physiology where any amount of radiation in the air at all causes them to slowly degenerate, starting with blindness, but eventually dying.
Same.
Like even Earth's radiation, too much for them.
I feel like that's me. I'm starting with blindness and slowly deteriorating. So should have known these people. They're my people. So
Um, and the particular ozone density of this planet is like the only planet that they have been able to find that has a Stargate in any way, shape, or form that these people can live at. Um, and their only other option would be to try to find their original homeworld, but it doesn't have a gate, so that's not very likely. And based on the size of this spaceship, it appears that evacuation is the only option, but they have nowhere to evacuate them to.
yay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I was like, are we
Uh,
about to like uproot this entire like land and just take it back to Earth and start their own little section of Earth? Like, where else are we gonna put them? Although I know like you're saying with the radiation stuff, but like that's the closest thing it seems to their home planet, right? Like,
yeah, but like, look at how badly, like, how much more blind they've all been going just from the month that they were on Earth.
yeah.
So,
But like if it's
um,
that or like raining showers of fire, I mean,
right.
you know,
But then we also find out that they could only handle Earth for a few days. And based on the amount of time they have left and how long it took them to move these people to this planet in the first place, um, they can't all be saved. So even if they evacuated them to Earth, someone would die. Great.
it's a lose-lose situation.
Um, so they're trying to brainstorm what to do, and Sam is doing some science stuff as she does. And she finds out that the planet seems to be being terraformed by an alien life form that is sulfur based rather than carbon based. And so everything that this spaceship is raining down is basically a way to recreate a whole different atmosphere. And once it finishes, everything that is alive as we know it will be dead. And I went off on a tangent in my brain at this point because in like every fucking sci-fi show and in real life, anytime people like meet aliens or talk about the possibility of life on other planets, everything is centered based on a carbon-based life form. Like all of these planets, we're the only planet in our solar system that can sustain life. False. We're the only planet in our solar system that can sustain a carbon-based life form. But we don't even have the faintest fucking idea what other kinds of life forms there could be.
Right. Yeah. I was, yeah. They kept saying it. It was like they wanted to like beat it into you. And I was like, this is not a great argument for you to have. And you just keep pushing more into it. Because I felt like I was watching it at work and I was like, how many times are they going to tell me that it's carbon based? Like, and that all these different places are carbon based. And there are other options. And I feel like, I don't know, is everywhere we've been like carbon based life forms? Is that like a
Yeah.
consistency? Or
Yeah.
have we found some
Well,
stuff that's not? Like,
because any planet that we as human beings would be able to breathe on would have to have a life or an
oh yeah, for
oxygen
sure.
level based on a carbon-based life forms. Like we need the correct combination of gases in our environment to be able to breathe. But like I just mean more like scientists, like when NASA is like the only planet in the Milky Way that can sustain life. and like Mars may be used to, but now the temperature is too cold. But I'm like, but you are doing all of this based on the idea that everything that is alive is carbon based.
Yeah.
But like, what if it's not? You don't fucking know.
Yeah. We used to think the earth was flat.
Well,
They
and because
learn things.
so on Wednesday at school, it was the first day of school and we had nothing to do. And so my kids wanted to like do talk about animals because they do that sometimes. And they were asking about animals that are intelligent. And we were reading this list and we were going through all these things that like are like chimpanzees and bonobos and like the things that they can do. And I literally was like, you guys have to understand that this list and the things that they're talking about, what it means by intelligent is based solely on human intelligence. Like, what can these animals do that we consider to show signs of intelligence? Because, like, I will never understand the life cycle of a fucking housefly. I won't. I will never. It for us as humans, it is not useful to anything that we need. So in
Right.
our brains, it is not intelligent. But that doesn't mean that they're like. And I spiraled when she said it was a sulfur-based life form. I spiraled into the ideas of sentience and like life forms and intelligences and how we even fucking classify anything.
See, I spiraled when she said sulfur based because I was like, wow, it's not really like livable for us anyways. But I was like, Rachel would immediately die. She's allergic to sulfur. So then I started going off on this spiral of like, what other life forms could exist based off of like people's allergies, like sulfur and all these. And I was like, this is I just like spiraled.
A shellfish-based life form.
But that's like carbon based. That's like that's our life. Our
Yeah.
life. But like
No.
I was thinking like sulfur, like what are there's like the three major like antibiotic groups of like sulfur based and then like penicillin based. Like I'm allergic to penicillin. And so like all these different things.
Yeah, but I don't know that penicillin.
I don't
I mean, but I guess because like I guess because
I'm not a science person. I don't understand what my brain is coming up with. So it's very possible that all these things make no sense. But
somebody's gonna listen to this podcast one day and be like, "Wow, they really have no fucking idea what they're talking about."
look, we never said we did. We only said we vaguely do.
We for sure never claimed to know what we were talking about, and we definitely didn't claim to know a fucking ounce of science information. The important part of science fiction is the fiction.
Right.
Ooh,
we are good at that part though.
Oh, but so Jack and Daniel go back to the planet to find out that all of the people have decided they're just going to stay there. They're like, well, if you can't save all of us, we'd rather all die together than some of us survive.
Fine. At that point, like whatever you want. It's easier that way. If you've all just agreed to it, like it's like a cult, but like for good reasons, not for like culty reasons.
Yeah, I guess. But like, as the leader of the tribe, I understand the guilt associated with like not having all of your people survive. But you just want your entire species and the history of your people to disappear because like a couple of them might die.
Yeah. No, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. But I mean, like it feels like a cult. Like like Jonestown, they were like, we're done, so now everyone dies. Like that's how we do.
Is Jonestown the one where the basketball team was on an away game?
Basketball team?
Oh,
I don't know if there's a basketball team, but his son was away, like recruiting.
One of the cults had a basketball team that was like playing an away game, and
Jonestown's the Flavor Aid people.
Yeah, no, I just don't remember which cult it was.
I do know that what's his name? His like son was away, like recruiting people, and it seems shady that he like sent away his like son in the A team to like recruit people so that they didn't die when they all drank the Kool-Aid.
Oh yeah, the Jonestown cult had a basketball team that were never identified, and they but because they were at an away game, and they were not there during the mass survivor, like the mass suicide, and so they all
That's
survived.
wild.
They
I
were
did not
in
realize it was a basketball team.
Yeah, and they were in Georgetown.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I knew that. I knew all of those facts you said, except that they're a basketball team, which
Oh
makes
yeah.
it way more exciting.
Yeah, they were a basketball team.
That's so funny.
Could you
That's
imagine like joining a cult and then joining the cult's basketball team?
Like, I mean, it's like when you're in college and you're like, are in the band and you join the band's intramural sports team. Like, it's basically the same thing. Just no one dies. So,
You and I had very different college experience. I was not on any intramural sports of any
no, I
kind.
was hardcore into volleyball intramural. And we also played just like outside games outside of intramural. And then we had a football team that like I wasn't a part of, but I like went to sometimes and brought snacks and ate snacks.
I was a wannabe groupie for our men's volleyball team.
Mm.
Yeah,
See, yeah, very different.
very different.
Very different.
But the team sets up a transmitter to try to communicate with whatever is on this ship that is raining fire. And then they try to send a signal, but instead the ship just like beams them up. And Sam finds it very suspicious that the ship is changing the air of the planet, yet the air on the ship is totally normal and breathable.
Yeah. Yeah, that I mean that's shady for sure.
It is shady. Also, super glad it was mentioned because otherwise that would be a plot hole like nobody's fucking business.
Yeah.
Um, then Daniel and Sam just start like opening drawers because that's what you do when you get beamed up onto a ship is just touch everything.
Yeah.
And they find tissue samples, and and they discover that it might be whatever they're trying to like regrow once this new planet is re-terraformed or transformed or whatever word you want to use for it. And then Lotan arrives, and he
I kept
is
wanting to
big.
call him Lotus, but I didn't. I did call him Lotan.
Good. Um, he is a biomechanical AI creation that has the same physiology as the Ankarans, and the ship, as a sentient automated life force, created it to try to help communicate what is going on to the Ankarans so that they would leave the planet. And all of this happened in one day.
Yep. Yep.
The timeline in this episode is a little iffy.
It's yeah. I didn't grasp it very well because I was like, this doesn't feel right. But then I was
So,
like, wait, no, I think I am right. It just doesn't
so,
fit very well.
so the timeline of what the events that happened prior to this episode are what don't make sense to me because Lotan says that and this is a little later in the episode, but Lotan says that that when they first scanned the planet and decided to come there was no sentient life.
Right.
But the Ankarans say that they've been on this planet for a month.
Right.
And then Lotan says that he collected data from the Ankarans, which was only a day ago. So how the fuck long has any of this been happening? I could not tell you.
Yeah.
No idea.
No,
There's no logical way to explain the gaps in that.
Yep.
And he says that he was created to tell the Ankarans that they had to leave because they won't be able to live in the new atmosphere. And SG starts to try to explain to them why that's not an issue and like why that's an issue and try to have this conversation, but he is, basically like a walking Siri, and so he's like not really understanding.
Yeah, I was like, this is great. This is early AI, and were trying to make it sentient already in 2000. I was like,
Yeah.
I bet Daniel's looking back now regarding this.
And Jack asks to see its superior, and it then begins to understand hierarchical command structures,
Yeah.
which is great. Um, so Lotan takes them to another part of the ship where he explains who he is working for and what they're doing. And so he is working with a race called the Gadmir, and they are a super advanced, like way more advanced than the Ankaran's race, that fell and were basically entirely destroyed due to a military power taking over their planet. Um, and they basically pulled a Superman and put their entire legacy into this like spaceship and sent it off to try to find a planet that would be able to be a good place for them to like rebuild their entire society. Um, and they offer to give Daniel translated copies of their entire history.
I first, when they first said that to him, I was like, help me, Daniel. If you are just like, oh, I'm a linguist, no problem, I can translate it. Like, I was like, if he says this, I'm going to
Yeah,
lose my mind.
he
Or
did
if he's
not.
like, let me try. Like, I was like, just take the translated versions.
Right. Um, but the biggest problem is that they only had enough raw materials on a ship to do this once. So
Mhm.
now that they've begun the transformation, they have to finish it, or else they will never be able to rebuild their society.
Right.
So we're at a catch-22 because one of these two races is going to have to die
Yeah.
since this planet is the only planet that can have either of them. Um,
Yeah.
we go back and they're explaining to Hammond what's going on and talking about their feelings about the matter. And Daniel's the only one who seems to care that like this spaceship is an entirely peaceful alien race that also is on the verge of extinction. And like at first it is set up in a way where like obviously you're supposed to be Team and Karen because like those are the ones that you know, but like
Yeah.
Daniel was 100% right, like from the get-go, that like you don't just get to decide that this race doesn't also get to live.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's that. Um, and Jack is taking it all way too personally.
Yeah. They were a little extra dramatic this episode for being non-dramatic at all in the last episode.
Right.
It was
Um,
it was a bit much.
they were acting like these people had like intermarried with the SGC and were a part of us now.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
I mean, it's like that episode where we thought we were fighting the right side and then we were shooting the good people. Like it was what, like earlier this season, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, right. The Nazi episode. That wasn't a Nazi
Yeah,
episode.
exactly.
Um, but and in this one, like I understand the Encarns are good people.
Right.
Like
Right.
they don't deserve to die.
Sure.
0% of me is saying that.
But there's no way to know, like, if the other side would deserve to die or not either. Like, we can't
Right.
just automatically be like, because they're against the people we know, like, they're not good.
Right. And the fact that they're like willing to offer you anything you want and give you any hints to what their society is like and any help to be able to interact with them despite being like species that don't breathe the same air. And like
Yeah.
that is a little bit more forthcoming than the other people, because like the last time you didn't trust somebody, it's because they literally wouldn't tell you the truth.
Right. Yeah.
These guys are like, here's everything, take it, read it, be a part of us, just also
Mhm.
don't let us die.
Right.
Hammond of Texas, God bless that man, um he will not give any military aid. He's like, this is not a situation where I can do that. Like, I can't let you destroy a ship with a life form on it just because it might also destroy another life form, like on accident. It's not war. They're not fighting.
Yeah. It's the circle of life at this point, like,
Yeah.
in its own sci-fi way.
Yeah. So Jack and Daniel just continue arguing about whether it's okay to blow the ship up or not. Um, And they go back to the planet and they're still fighting and everything is awful and everyone's going to die. And then Jack is like, do you think the Napata reactor that we have here could be turned into a bomb? And Sam's like, I mean, I guess. And he's like, well, then I'm ordering you to do that. And no one is happy about this. Like, he doesn't seem very happy that he is doing it. Sam is very unhappy that she has to do it. Daniel is just like livid that no one will listen to him. Like, no one is happy.
Yeah, no one is happy this entire episode about
And
anything.
Teal'c is like weirdly apathetic for
Yeah,
the entire episode. Like, Teal'c is just like accepting that people are gonna die. He's just like there. He feels nothing for the whole episode. I don't know.
it's very strange. Yeah.
The last episode that you really did not like that I did was The Window of Opportunity, which was the first episode written by these guys. These two clearly have a very different take on the characters, which is evident in this episode as well, because it's more in line with who we saw them as in the other episode. But I don't know. I don't know if I like the direction they're taking Teal'c, because it's very apathetic.
Yeah, like I understand the like apathy of like he grew up in like a war zone in war times and like he was meant to not have super strong feelings, but also like we've now developed him so much more as a character in the opposite direction that like it feels
Right.
like we're erasing the character development we would have had
Yeah.
going to this apathetic tilt. Whereas like
Like
there
Teal'c,
should
it
still be some
doesn't.
of that, but it shouldn't be his whole personality anymore.
Right. Like there should be a level of apathy to Teal'c because he doesn't understand all of the concepts and because his internal motivation is to do the greater good no matter what the risk is or what the cost is. But Teal'c just like standing by and letting a pregnant woman choose to like get suicide bombed instead of attempting to save herself feels wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but so Sam makes the bomb and they set it up, and Daniel is like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go talk to Lotan."
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and Lotan is like, "Yeah, I tried to like live on the planet, and it just feels really wrong in my Encarn body." And Daniel's like, "Yeah, because you're gonna die." And he was like, "Well, yeah, I'll be reintegrated." And he's like, "Do you want to die?" He was like, "I what I want doesn't matter. I'm a robot. Like, I don't what?" Um, so Daniel convinces him to come see the planet and see what he's missing and enjoy his little Encarn body while he has it. And Sam tells Jack that she thinks that they're not doing the right thing. And he's like, "What do you want to do? Tell me to change my mind?" And she's like, "Yes."
Yeah. Like exactly. That's exactly what I want you to do.
And they have like an almost moment where it's like she wants so badly to be able to like actually just like talk to him the way she wants to talk to him, and she can't because they're actively on a mission and he's her boss, and she just like looks at him like, "I have so many things I want to fucking say to you
Yep.
that I
Yeah.
And Daniel and Lotan just like go for a stroll through the trees and talk about air and nature, and it's weirdly like philosophic. Um,
Yeah. I couldn't for the life of me like place it, but it felt very similar to a scene in a movie that I watched where like but there was a complete like drama film that was like very sad and it was like a dad and a son type thing walking down the street and it's like I'm about to die, so let me tell you how things are gonna go. And I felt like it took
yeah.
that whole spin. I was like, this is so out of like character
See,
for
what
the
it
show.
you're absolutely correct because what it felt like to me is like those scenes in like the Hallmark fall movies where they're walking through the apple orchard and the big city girl is like smelling the trees and being like, "I remember when I used to be here with my grandpa before life was complicated and I was just allowed to feel." Like that's what it felt like to me.
Yeah.
So
Yep. 100%.
only with awkward ass Daniel Jackson being the one trying to get you to have feelings.
Yeah, and a robot that's sentient or attempting to be.
Um so then they Daniel and Jack have like some passive aggressive arguing on the radio after Teal tells Jack that Daniel left. But Daniel brings Lotan to the village to meet all the Ankarans and learn about their real plight. And Lotan's like, "You brought me here to try to have sympathy. That's not in my programming. Goodbye." But as he's trying to leave, Daniel's like, "Just take me with you." And he does.
Yeah. It's like no one's listening to anyone. No one's following any type of rule pattern.
If
Like,
this were anything else ever, except for the show, Daniel'd be fucking dead right now.
yeah. Yeah.
In no other show would Daniel have survived this episode.
To be fair, he also would have been fired before this. Like, he would not have made it to this episode. I feel like in general.
I mean, yeah, but you think about how many shows have like a character that like how did House never get fired from that hospital? There's not a chance in hell
Yeah.
that would still happen. My first thought was Castle. Why, with his attitude, do they still come to him to help solve crimes? Why would you want to work? He doesn't even work for them. They just voluntarily go and get his help. For what reason? He's an asshole.
They're in love, Mary Kate. In love, what is it? Trump Saul, whatever. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't. My quote today. I feel like
I don't believe in love.
Scrambled my brain. I don't believe in a lot of stuff. I would believe more when it's not as hot.
Fair. But Daniel. Oh, and Sam and Jack are like fucking panicking because they have less than 5 minutes to figure this out, and Daniel just left again. Great. Daniel explains to Lotan what they're doing because Lotan sees the bomb and is like, "What's that?" So then they do, in fact, run out of time. And Sam's like, "What are we gonna do?" And Teal'c just goes, "Daniel Jackson has made his choice, O'Neill."
Yeah, it's like his
What?
choice is like to never be with the team again. That's what it sounded like. It was like
Right.
he's leaving us forever. Like,
Right, like Daniel knew you were gonna blow it up and went back to the ship anyway, so you gotta kill him.
yeah, it's
What?
it feels like
That
a
that was the moment that I was like, I don't know this Teal'c.
yeah.
But Jack does in fact detonate the bomb anyway.
Mhm.
And Daniel still fights to reason with Lotan, and convince him that he needs to try to stop to truly serve the Gadmir. He gives him this whole long speech about how if the Gadmir are truly peaceful people, and that Lotan is not there just to help create life. He's there to help keep the integrity of life. And and they chose this planet because it had no sentience on it. And so if the Gadmir woke up and found out what happened, it would ruin everything that they stand for as an entire civilization. So Lotan just like brings the bomb onto the ship and is like, "Okay, do you know how to stop it?" And Daniel's like, "I surely do not."
Absolutely
So
not. Absolutely not.
so they let it go in the air like fireworks. So everyone is alive and everyone is saved, but not really because Lotan is very sad because he doesn't know what to do because he tells Daniel that they scanned millions of planets before finding this one. And it was the only one out of all of the millions of planets that the Gadmir would be able to live on because there were 2,634 parameter that needed to be met. What a needy fucking species.
Yeah.
And Daniel's like, okay, well, maybe the Ankarans need a similar atmosphere, but not exactly the same. And he was like, were there any other planets that
Came close.
were close, like even came close? And he was like, well, there's this one, and it only had 3 parameters that it didn't meet. One was that it was too warm, which we talked at the beginning of the episode that the planet was getting too cold. 2 was I cannot even begin to remember. And the third was that they already had sentient beings on this planet. So Daniel correctly deduces that this must be the original Ankaran homeworld. So he and Lotan go down to the Ankarans and tell them what they've found out, and that Lotan has agreed to take all of them in his big fancy spaceship and put them on their homeworld before letting the spaceship come back to finish terraforming this planet. And they then has a whatever her name is, convinces Lotan that because he is Ankaran, he should stay with them and live out the rest of his life, which is weird because he's a biomech AI, not like a computer AI, so he will get older and die.
Right.
But
Yeah.
and he says yes.
Yeah, I don't understand why it's such a big deal to have 2 types of sentient beings on the same planet. Like, I understand if they need different like qualities of life.
That's why.
But if they don't, well, he's like, there's already a sentient being on this planet that these people could also live on. Like, why can't they both live there?
Because the oxygenated atmosphere has to be destroyed in order for the sulfur-based creatures to live on the planet. So they wanted to find a planet that had no sentient life form so that the complete destruction of the terraform didn't kill anyone.
Right, but I'm saying for like this last time when they were talking about it, like not with the new species, they were like, we were going to put them on this planet, but it was too warm. And it ends up being the planet they're going to anyways, but like
no, they were going to put the Gadmir on that planet, but they would have had to, it would have killed whatever was on the planet.
Oh, well, I don't understand why like the Ankaran couldn't have moved, but I see now that we're Ankaran, so it made sense to move them. But
yeah,
like
the Ankaran couldn't move there because it didn't have a Stargate, and until Lotan agreed to take them, they had no way to put them there.
Oh, okay, I see. I was like, I don't understand why this is such a big hangout, like why they can't move there.
No, it's because it's
Stargate
without the Stargate, no, they had never been able to find this planet. Lotan's scanner is the only reason they knew the planet even existed.
Right.
And which is why Lotan is sad that he didn't think of that solution without Daniel's help.
Yeah.
So, the only trivia I had for this episode was one, the facts about the Ankarans, and then the other is that all of Lotan's spaceship is actually Thor's spaceship from Nemesis, just with a new set dressing.
That's so funny. And also like feels like the only financially responsible thing to do.
Correct.
So I can
because this is the second episode in the season where you needed a massive spaceship.
Right.
So
yeah,
absolutely. Who do you want to punch?
So here's the thing. Both who I want to punch and my MVP are the same person this week.
Interesting choices.
And they are both Daniel Jackson. He drove me up the wall because he just kept defecting. And he wasn't giving any reasoning. He was just like, I'm going to go take care of this. I'm going to go now.
Also being like an asshole, he was like, Jack
Yeah.
told me to find another choice, so technically I'm still following orders. Like he was being such a dick
Yeah.
about
And I'm
it.
like, it's not, but the thing is, like, he's also the MVP because, like, he's the reason they all got saved. Like,
Yeah.
so he saved the planet. But if he would have just, like, used a bit of communication, maybe, like, that would have been helpful. And so instead of just being like, okay, I'm out, like, and everybody's like, we're in the middle of, like, a 30-second bomb detonation. Like, I need to know, like, what's
Right.
going on. Like,
They were like, we have 50 minutes until the bomb has to be set off. And he's like, that's a good time to figure the shit out.
yeah. And then he's like, oh, there's 5 minutes left. Great. I'm going to go back to the ship too. And like, doesn't like speak to anyone other than saying that. I'm
Yeah.
like, you could have like, I get that it's technically, you can't like go against orders. So you can't like explain why you need to go against orders very well. But if you're going to just go against orders anyway, you may as well explain so everyone's not like freaking out. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. So I wanted to punch him in the face, but also he is the MVP because he's the reason they all survived. So
Absolutely. The person I want to punch in the face is Teal'c because he literally told Jack it was cool to just blow Daniel up, which is
sure.
so not correct.
Yeah.
And my MVP is I'm gonna say it's Lotan because he decided that not only would he do the right thing and find a way to make sure both species stay alive, he like got to have his own feelings and grow and decide what he wanted to do and like choose to live a life that wasn't just reintegration with the ship.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was also, I feel like, better at communicating it than some of the other people. Like he was like, this is why we have to do this. He like explained everything. It like
Yeah.
even if it wasn't great and there were other options, he was like, this is why we have to do this. These are all of the reasons. And
Yeah.
like without
He
that, no
didn't.
one would have known how to like fight against it. So
Yeah, he like didn't lie. He was like, it's unfortunate, it's tough luck. When he said tough luck, that was so funny. But he was like, it's unfortunate and I don't like it, but it's what it is, and unless we can and like it's not up to me. And then Daniel, being Daniel, was like, but make it up to you.
right.
So
Mm.
well, it's not a very long episode.
It
Um,
wasn't.
it wasn't.
It was a very focused episode, so it wasn't like a lot
Yeah,
other than the exact thing we were talking about.
yeah,
So.
well, that's true. Well, we did go on a very weird tangent about sulfur-based life forms.
Well, I meant
Um,
like the episode itself, like we didn't go off to any other like go back to SGC a
that's
lot.
true.
Talk
We
to
didn't. We didn't
people.
go back and forth a ton of times, and when we did, they were really short, focused
Mhm.
scenes. And part of it has to do with the fact that like some of the characters had shit to do in the episode, like
Yeah.
poor Teal'c, who was I don't even know who he was this episode. Um, um, the next week's episode is very weird.
Oh, good.
Uh,
I can't wait.
yeah. So do you have any thoughts before we wrap this up?
I have no real thoughts. I feel like I said a lot of things that didn't make sense in the episode, but because I feel like this episode just was like weird. I don't know, like
Yeah.
it just didn't sit
It's
right.
not a bad episode. It just wasn't
Yeah,
the most like part of it was because it wasn't like a crazy good episode, but it also wasn't a bad episode. I feel like if an episode is like bananas good, you have so
yeah,
much to say, and if it's like bananas bad, you have so
yeah,
much to say. That like the decent episodes, unless there's like a lot of tricky things happening, they're kind of hard to talk about.
yeah. And it
And
wasn't. It didn't feel like consistent, like with what we've
yeah,
been watching, like the characters we
right.
talked about. Like so, it's just kind of like it felt kind of
Yeah.
like an out of place episode for me.
Yeah, and with a show that is more story of the week and not serialized, even though it has serialized elements, it is at its heart a story of the week sci-fi series. It there's not as much like conjecture,
Yeah,
so it there's not a lot to talk about. Um,
yeah.
but Teal'c's makeup was looking real heavy again this week. I don't.
Yeah,
Occasionally, I think that they just like go way too hard with the eyeshadow, and I'm like, what is happening?
I know. They do. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I guess if you understand anything about any kind of life form that is not carbon based, please, for the love of God, send us some information because we genuinely don't know what we're talking about. Um, and if you have anything else you'd like to share, you can go ahead and do that as well. You can email us at deathandaliens@gmail.com. You can follow us on all the social media at Death and Aliens. You can follow me at, I almost said your Instagram instead of mine, at EMKAY underscore
You can
superstar.
find me. I get it mine too. I'm sure I'll get it to her. It's fine. But if you want to find us directly, you can find me at CE Cloud 13.
And we will talk to you guys on Thursday for the second to last episode of the season of The Exorcist. And it is something.
Something happens, stuff happens.
We'll see you then. Bye.